Have you ever really stopped to think about how the internet has evolved? I don't just mean the technology, but how it's fundamentally changed who holds the power, and maybe even who we are. Well, let's get into it, because we're about to walk through the four major eras of the web. We're going from a simple, static library of information all the way to a future where the internet might just think.
And this quote just nails it, right? It really sets the stage. We're not talking about a collection of websites and apps. We're talking about the underlying nervous system of our world, this massive, invisible web connecting billions of people, entire economies, and all our cultures into one single living thing.
And, that system was built in stages, in layers. So think of this as our map for today's journey. Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and then the really mind-bending stuff, the new frontier of Web 4. Each of these isn't just an update, it's a huge shift in technology, in power, and in what it means to be human online. So let's start right at the beginning.
Okay, let's go back. Picture the early 1990s. The internet was this quiet, kind of strange new place. This was Web 1. It was the very first version of our connected world, and it felt less like the loud, busy city we live in today and a lot more like a giant, silent library.
And that library analogy, it's perfect. You could find an absolutely staggering amount of information, digital brochures, early articles, pages from universities, but you were just a visitor. You could look around, but you couldn't really touch anything. The conversation was completely one way.
So here's the key thing to remember. Your role was purely a passive consumer. All the content was just static pages, built by big institutions and the few developers who had the technical chops to do it. There was basically zero interaction. So even though the network itself was decentralized, the power to create was super centralized. And that right there, that was the big problem that Web 2 was born to solve.
All right, now let's jump forward to the mid-2000s. All of a sudden, the internet just exploded. It was full of color, conversation, and non-stop creativity. Web 2 wasn't just some minor upgrade, it was a total revolution. It turned the internet from a publishing system into a participation system.
And this comparison just says it all. The entire role of the user got flipped on its head. You weren't just reading the library books anymore. You were now writing them, you were reviewing them, and you were arguing about them with everyone else in the library all at the same time.
The big breakthrough was something we now take for granted: user-generated content. Suddenly, platforms like Facebook and YouTube and the whole blogosphere gave everyday people the tools to be a creator, a publisher, a broadcaster. For the first time ever, anyone could build an audience. And just like that, the internet became this wild, chaotic, global conversation.
But of course, this revolution had a catch. There was a hidden cost. All of our participation. Our likes, our shares, our comments, it generated a ridiculous amount of data. And that gave rise to the attention economy, a world where our clicks, our time, even our emotions became the product being sold. The algorithms weren't built to make us happy. They were built to do one thing: capture and hold our attention for as long as possible.
And that right there is the fundamental trade-off of the Web 2 world we're still in. We got this incredible convenience, this amazing ability to create and connect with anyone. But in return, we handed over control of our data, our digital identities, and pretty much all the value we were creating to just a handful of giant companies.
So that massive concentration of power, that is exactly what Web 3 is all about: dismantling. It's a whole movement that's built on a pretty simple but totally radical idea: giving ownership of the internet back to the people who actually use it.
So the big question Web3 is trying to answer is this: how do we keep all the great participation of Web 2 without decentralized control? How can we trust each other online without having to go through a big corporation as the middleman for everything?
Well, the proposed answer is a technology called the blockchain. Now, at its heart, the idea is actually pretty simple. Just think of it like a public digital receipt book. It's a shared record that everyone can see and that no one can secretly change. It lets us prove we own things and make deals based on verifiable truth, not just on a company's promise.
And this shows you what that actually looks like in practice. In the old Web 2 way, your identity is basically rented from a platform. But in the new Web 3 way, you connect with a crypto wallet that you, and only you, control. It's your digital passport, your bank, your key to all your digital stuff, all rolled into one. You're not just a user anymore, you're a sovereign digital citizen.
But this whole story doesn't just stop at ownership. Nope. The next era, the one we are just starting to tiptoe into, is Web 4. And this is where the internet starts to think.
So what Web 4 does is it takes that decentralized ownership idea from Web 3, and then it layers on this incredibly powerful new ingredient, artificial intelligence. It's the moment where AI, all of our connected devices, and our digital property all start to work together in one seamless, intelligent system.
So the really big shift here is from passive tools to active agents. The internet becomes ambient. It's just sort of woven into the world around us. And AI acts like the brain of this network, understanding what's going on, even predicting what we need. The whole internet starts to evolve from a place where we just store stuff into a system that actually thinks and works with us.
Okay, let's just zoom out for a second here, because when you look at all 4 of these stages lined up next to each other, a really clear and powerful pattern starts to emerge. It's actually a story about the evolution of power itself.
In this timeline, it just lays it out perfectly. In Web 1, the institutions held all the keys to information. In Web 2, the giant platforms became the gatekeepers of interaction. In Web 3, users start to take back the keys to their own digital property. And in Web 4, that power becomes a true collaboration between our intelligence and machine intelligence.
And that's it. That's the grand story of the web in one sentence. We started as quiet readers in a digital library, then we became the loud, creative speakers in a global town square. Now we're learning how to be property owners in this new digital world. And the next stop on this journey? It looks like it's a future of intelligent partnership.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of profound thought. The internet isn't just a tool we use anymore. It's becoming an extension of our own minds, a piece of our collective consciousness. So the real question for the future, it isn't about the technology anymore. It's about what this technology will ultimately allow humanity to become.